The tape that appended everything it began as a whisper, hardly noticeable, nearly written off as background noise. However, as soon as the recording was made public online, it spread like wildfire throughout the Brown family's shattered world. There was no mistaking the voice. Robyn Brown was overheard discussing the specifics of a significant money transfer in a frenzied yet calculated tone. "It's just $820K. Cody doesn't need to know the exact amount. If it's listed under family expenses, no one will question it." The ramifications were devastating. Robyn had transferred more than $820,000 in community property funds, assets that were supposed to be divided among the family members, into accounts under her exclusive control. Not merely in collaboration with Cody. In a family trust, no. Just her name. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, TLC Flicks. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. An anonymous whistleblower who was close to the TLC production team and had become uneasy about what they called manipulation and emotional blackmail behind the scenes was the source of the leak. It was initially heard by Janelle. She listened to the tape twice while sitting in her small rental in Arizona with her son Gabe by her side. But then again, as reality descended like a thundercloud in her chest, she clutched the corners of the laptop with her fingers. "She succeeded," Janelle muttered. "She did it, really." Gazing at the bank transfer reports retrieved from the shared folder he used to assist in overseeing for the family, Gabe gazed. "This is robbery, Mom. This is deception." The unraveling then started. Meri's awakening and Janelle's frigid rage. The weight of treachery was so heavy that Janelle's voice trembled when she called Meri that night, not out of terror. Janelle stated plainly, she embezzled the CP funds. More than $800,000. It's all in Meri's name. On 2 forms, she even used Cody's electronic signature. Meri sat in her bed and breakfast in Utah in startled stillness. "Wait, do you mean she made up his name?" Janelle growled. She told him it was standard budgeting. While she was securing herself, she used the phrase security for the family. Christine didn't even flinch as she was on a video conversation with them. She always had a plan, and I knew it. The others were merely pawns. But she's gone too far now. Meri's gaze grew strained. She has underestimated the wrong women if she believes she can get away with this. The 3 ex-wives stood together for the first time in years. Not because they were in misery together, but because they were ready to work together. The TLC argument and Cody's disintegration. Robyn returned to Flagstaff and walked onto the TLC set with her typical over-rehearsed warmth. Cody trailed after, complaining about the illumination. Neither was aware of what awaited them. The producer tapped a tablet and stated, "We just want to get a reaction to this audio." The room became silent. Robyn's face became completely white as the well-known whispering voice poured out of the speaker. "Cody doesn't need to know." Cody narrowed his eyes as he peered at her. He remained silent till the finish of the recording. "You claimed that you were only handling the finances," he replied in a chilly tone. "I was. Yes, I am. I had to make sure we were all right." Robyn stumbled. "My name was signed by you. You assured me that the paperwork was not a concern. It was for all of us, you claimed. Not you." He got up and bounded off the set. Even Cody's loyalty had finally collapsed for once. Headlines and disgrace within a few hours. The media jumped in. Entertainment Weekly, Robyn Brown moved $820,000 in family funds. Secret audio revealed. TMZ, TLC show in crisis. Robyn Brown charged with community property theft. The Sun. Robyn faces repercussions as Meri and Janelle prepare to file a lawsuit. The calm manipulator was suddenly the subject of a front-page scandal. Robyn also lacked a public defense. There was no holding back from her sister wives. Christine shared a chronology of Robyn's financial control live on Instagram. Redacted records demonstrating the CP transfers were made public by Janelle. In an emotional message, Meri said, "It's not just about money. It has to do with trust that is irreparably damaged." Robyn Brown, the architect behind the family's collapse, was promptly judged the winner by the court of public opinion. Legal actions and the last battle. Janelle and Meri wasted no time. From 2020 to 2024, they sued for an independent audit of all CP funding. Their lawyers accused them of financial coercion, fraud, and forgeries and demanded accountability. Despite being encircled and humiliated, Cody did not obstruct them. "We're working through internal family matters with legal guidance," he said in a feeble public statement, but the harm had already been done. Robyn ceased taking phone calls. Filming was halted by TLC. Robyn threatened to sue the network for broadcasting private conversations, according to production insiders. But it was too late. The video had been broadcast. The harm could not be undone. Robyn sat by herself in her house, the once-priced house she had persuaded Cody to purchase in her name, in solitude. The accounts were put on hold. There was silence on the walls. And for the first time, the quiet was exposure rather than tranquility. Without her, the family comes together. The last straw occurred at a family gathering to which Robyn was not invited. In Arizona, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and their kids convened for what they referred to as a realignment. "We need to take back our authority," Janelle declared. "We will no longer be controlled." Meri glanced at Savannah, Hunter, Michael T., Gabriel, and Gwendolyn in the room. Once, Robyn's authority pushed grown children aside. They now stood for their mothers as soldiers and witnesses. "She used our silence to build her empire," Christine continued. "But our silence is over." Robyn Brown's isolation. When Robyn got home, she read article after headline that portrayed her in a more negative light. She attempted to call Cody. Voicemail. Her attempt to contact TLC's legal representative was blocked. No more cameras. Fan pages are no longer available. No more Cody supporting her while sitting next to her in family confessionals. Just her. By themselves. With the debris she left behind. "I was just trying to protect what was mine," she said in a whisper to herself. However, she had lost everything in her quest to defend, accumulate, and safeguard. The reckoning in court. Robyn Brown got out of a black SUV on a bleak Flagstaff morning with her lawyer at her side and a desperate vibe that hung over her like stale perfume. There was a tight-lipped hush in place of her usual soft-spoken manner. The courthouse loomed like a death chamber in the distance. The gallery buzzed within. The wooden benches were crowded with reporters, bloggers, former Mormon campaigners, and inquisitive locals. In a civil fraud and forgery lawsuit brought by Meri and Janelle Brown, the woman who had once sobbed on TLC about keeping the family together was now a defendant. The judge at the front leafed through a substantial pile of papers marked Community Property Fund Audit 2020 to 2024, Brown versus Brown. Behind her lawyer, Janelle sat composedly. With her clear-eyed confidence speaking for itself, she donned navy and wore no makeup. With a grim expression, Meri sat next to her, her intermittent glances at Robyn revealing years of grief that were now bubbling up as righteous fire. The unexpected witness was then summoned. "Mr. Please take the stand, Cody Brown." There was silence. Breaks in realization. Cody inhaled deeply before taking the stand, his hands resting restlessly in his lap. The gleam of theatrical assurance had vanished, and his hair was pulled back more tightly than normal. He took a while to respond when questioned if he had approved the transfer of more than $820,000 into accounts that were just in Robyn's name. "No. The forms were not read by me. I had faith in Robyn." The judge's gaze narrowed. "And did you know that 3 different documents were digitally signed by you?" Cody paused, then gave a headshake. "No. I wasn't. I simply trusted her when she informed me that she was streamlining things." The gallery echoed with whispers. Robyn sat rigidly and flushed. Her attorney scrawled frantically. Janelle observed with icy precision. This was what she had been waiting for, not Cody's breakdown, but his admission. At last, he was dismantling the meticulously crafted delusion that she had long believed. The entire world would now follow suit. Janelle steps up. Focus and fire. Janelle brought history as well as evidence with her when she got up and walked over to the witness chair. With composure, she described her years of overseeing family money, including how CP accounts were first handled jointly, how Robyn insisted on helping, and how she pushed for the transfer of all monies to centralized safety. Janelle stated unequivocally, "And when I asked questions, Robyn called me paranoid, said that I was fostering mistrust." We now know, however, that she wasn't assisting. She was in hiding. She gave Robyn her whole attention. "You didn't simply tell Cody a lie. You deceived us all. You took from our kids, from our futures, and Robyn's argument breaks. Robyn's legal team were extremely anxious by the afternoon. The evidence was too damning, including falsified e-signatures, bank transfers concealed from public view, and changed notations on official CP ledger files. They tried to portray her as overwhelmed, saying she had only taken on the responsibility because no one else would. Cody Brown's sworn affidavit was even worse. Her written testimony described years of exclusion and conversations Robyn initiated about controlling the family wealth once the other wives left, despite the fact that she was there. According to Cody's affidavit, she claimed we were unstable and didn't deserve equal shares. "I'll be the last wife standing when this all falls apart," she remarked with a laugh. In that instant, Robyn's face broke, not with tears, but with something more delicate, the growing fear that her kingdom was collapsing beyond saving. Final thoughts: a change in authority, a forensic examination of all Brown family assets, and a freeze on Robyn's personal accounts pending additional investigation were mandated by the court as she ended the day's proceedings. In a week, the court would meet again. Supporters cheered as Janelle down the courthouse steps outside. Meri trailed closely behind. They avoided talking to reporters. They were not obliged to. This family no longer belonged to Cody and Robyn's fantasies, as their presence made clear. Inside, Robyn was slouched in a chilly corridor chair as her lawyer murmured the next course of action. However, Robyn didn't respond for the first time. Glazed, she gazed at the floor. She no longer had control over her image, Cody, or finances. Cody was sitting by himself on a bench across the courtroom plaza, with his head in his hands and his elbows resting on his knees. He wasn't the focus of anything for the first time in his adult life. Robyn's illusion was shattered by the audit like the last drumbeat in a battle Robyn believed she had already won. The morning of the audit report's release arrived. Every action she took, from speaking quietly to being pious to keeping her resentment wrapped in silk, had been well considered. But the truth always hits like thunder, regardless of how tastefully the deception is told. The courtroom in Flagstaff was more crowded than ever. As the 4-inch-thick, red-bound forensic accounting report was carried in, attorneys, court clerks, and even a TLC production representative sat tensely. The first page was raised by Judge Helms. She spoke in a steady, crisp, almost clinical voice. 14 distinct financial transfers totaling $823,417.52 between 2020 and 2024 were discovered to have been made into 3 unidentified accounts under Robyn Sullivan Brown's name. Furthermore, 2 shell trusts with property titles not included in earlier reports were found. A gulp. Then muttering. Meri's head tipped just a bit. Janelle crossed her arms over her chest fiercely. Stunned, Cody leaned back. It was alluded to in Cody's affidavit. However, nobody had foreseen the magnitude. The report went on to say a Flagstaff property owned by the BRS Family Trust was paid $412,000 in cash, which was directly deducted from the CP account. Another asset is a Sedona vacation house with a R title. TLC appearance fees were transferred from the family LLC into Robyn Brown's personal business account to finance Sullivan Holdings. In an attempt to suppress evidence that was deemed inadmissible owing to privacy concerns, Robyn's lawyer interjected. However, it was too late. The data, IP logs, and transfers were all in the judge's possession. At last the mask had broken. Behind Robyn's curtain, trusts, Sedona, and the children's funds, one of the most heartbreaking facts the court learned as it went through the report line by line was that Robyn had diverted college savings funds that had been set aside for each of the 4 spouses' children. The Brown Futures Fund, an account that Janelle and Meri had once jointly established, had been lowered to $47.12. The others? Transferred to a new account with the name only Dayton, Brianna, and Aurora from Sullivan Educational Holdings. Janelle did not cry when that was read aloud to her. Savannah, however, did. The betrayal hit like a slap as they were sitting at the museum with Gabe and Garrison's close friend. She took everything meant for all of us and left us with nothing, Savannah muttered. Cody's fall. The monarch without a crown. Following the disclosures in the report, Cody went into a downward spiral. Cameras saw him pacing the corridor with his fists clenched during a pause in proceedings, muttering, "How could she do this? How could I let her do this?" Later that day, Cody Brown sat alone himself on a seat outside the courtroom, watching the dust whirl, No longer the leader of a family, no longer the guardian of anything. "Do you think Robyn deceived you?" a reporter asked. He didn't respond. Rather, he said, "I trusted all she told me. I opened our house to her, and she set everything on fire." Filing the formal motion is Meri's power move. Meri wasted little time since the audit was now available to the public. In a formal motion for damages and restitution, her lawyers called for the return of CP monies that had been diverted, the liquidation of all assets that were concealed in trusts, and a criminal investigation into the falsified ownership and signatures. The motion was co-signed by Janelle. Christine made a video available to the public. "Even though I'm no longer with the family, I'm still witnessing justice be served. You don't get to keep what wasn't yours in the first place, Robyn." Robyn's response. Cracks turn into craters. Robyn spent almost 2 days at home, locking herself in her bedroom. Her phone was constantly buzzing with calls from lawyers, TLC representatives. They are unable to comprehend. "I have to keep us safe." Even she felt that the words were meaningless. She gazed at fancy purses, property deeds tucked into shoe organizers, and boxes of unread Amazon packages in her walk-in closet. Everything, secretly hoarded, silently bought. All of it was now evidence. Robyn's hand gripped the last court notice. Sullivan Trust Holdings, 30 days to comply with the motion to freeze. Additionally, Robyn Brown had no one left to perform for the first time in her meticulously planned existence. Legacy unraveled. Epilogue. The response was fast and harsh on the internet. Once supportive fans suddenly called Robyn the final wife who buried the family. Hundreds of thought pieces appeared on Reddit, YouTube, and TikTok. Robyn engineered the fall of the empire. She didn't just marry Cody. What happened to the money? An analysis of Robyn's takeover of CP Janelle, Meri, and the children, a sister wives reckoning. The network is evaluating future filming in light of recent legal developments, was the only statement issued by TLC. Cody ceased to post on social media. The spin-off series, tentatively dubbed Reclaimed Life After Polygamy, was apparently being discussed by Meri, Janelle, and Christine with a new production firm. What about Robyn? She continued to hide behind the same barriers she had erected with the funds she referred to as protection. The day of judgment, it was a tense, almost spiritually quiet courthouse. For the final decision, just voices, paperwork, and the lingering shadow of unfulfilled promises were permitted inside. Cameras were not permitted. It was obvious to all that this was more than a simple legal conclusion. It was the funeral for what had once been a family. Wearing all black, Robyn sat at the defendant's table, her body shaking and her eyes rimmed with red. Her lawyer, drained and silent, sat to her right. The gallery was crowded behind them once more, but this time it was witnesses to justice rather than supporters. Janelle straightened up. She never took her eyes off the judge. She was there to complete the task Robyn had begun, not to rejoice. Beside her, Meri was carrying a single folder, which contained the original paperwork that Robyn had falsified. Ever since she learned the truth, she hadn't let them go. Judge Helms arrived without fanfare. She sat, turned the page, and spoke in a voice honed by years of silently witnessing empires fall apart. This court finds Robyn Sullivan Brown liable for misappropriation of community property funds, fraud through concealment, and civil forgery of financial signatures after carefully reviewing all financial documents, testimonies, and forensic audit data. Robyn felt her shoulders tremble. She twitched her lips but made no sound. Robyn loses everything, according to the court orders. While the judge listed the terms of the ruling, the courtroom waited. 1. Complete BRS family trust liquidation. All assets, including the residences in Sedona and Flagstaff, will be auctioned for market value. 2. The original CP account, which is currently run by an impartial third-party trustee appointed to Meri and Janelle, will receive $823,417.52 in damages. 3. All diverted college money have been returned to all biological and adopted Brown children through the reallocation of the Brown Futures Fund. 4. Financial power revocation. Robyn is no longer permitted to act on behalf of any LLC or Brown family business. 5. For possible criminal charges pertaining to financial forgeries, the investigation was sent to the Arizona State Attorney's Office. Robyn fell into her own self. A sob escaped. She shook her lawyer off as he put a steady touch on her shoulder. Meri did not feel sorry for her. Janelle just let out a breath. The assent of the others outside the courthouse, reporters gathered outside, but Meri and Janelle remained silent. Walking hand in hand, they were a silent storm of anguish and victory. The money wasn't the point. It wasn't. It has to do with what they had gone through. They were told to keep silent during those years. The things they gave up for a man who wouldn't defend them. The deceit of a lady who built an empire behind their backs while crying behind masks of innocence. Christine was at the end of the sidewalk, waiting. She gave them each a tearful embrace. "We succeeded," Meri muttered. "At last, we removed her authority." Suddenly, there was a permanent change in power. Robyn's world falls apart. Robyn returned to a home she no longer owned that evening. She was sent a transition letter from the trustee by her legal team, which stated that she had 45 days to leave the property unless she decided to buy it back, which she was no longer able to do. Dayton, Brianna, and Aurora sat quietly at the dining table. They had turned down the lights. The air was thick. "Now what?" Aurora inquired softly. Robyn opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The sun had risen after her empire had been a place of remorse and gloom. Rebuilding the empire with Janelle and Meri, the money from the liquidated trust was distributed a few weeks later. Meri and Janelle were discussing the new possessions while standing together in a lawyer's office. One Utah vacation house. One Arizona commercial property. Additionally, their names redirected 40% of all TLC residuals. They refrained from boasting. Champagne was not toasted. As women who had earned every inch of independence with the scars to show it, they signed the papers and departed in silence. Janelle gave a small smile. "We now have the authority to determine what constitutes legacy." Cody by himself. Cody was last seen renting a one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Flagstaff. He is currently separated from all 4 of his wives. His phone was silent, and his hair was turning gray. No crews from TLC. No more than one household. Not an empire. Only regret. With a faded family photo still unpacked next to him, he gazed at the barren wall of his living room. He took it up. Meri, Janelle, and Christine. Robyn too. A younger, more confident, smug, and ambitious version of himself. He muttered, "What on earth did I do?" and placed the frame on the counter, face down. The future without Robyn's enterprise did not end the Brown family's existence. It changed. Reclaimed Life After Plural Marriage is a new documentary series that Christine, Meri, and Janelle are co-producing that focuses on financial freedom, healing, and reconstruction. Finally liberated from fear or duty, their children speak freely. Regarding Robyn, she vanished from the public eye. TLC quietly ended her contract. Her home in Flagstaff sold. The trending tabs faded her name. She turned into the outsider, something she never would have imagined. The others, though? They changed completely. Let us know in your comments. And stay tuned by subscribing our channel to get more updates like this. Thanks, everyone.